Hello, what is up YouTube? G3 Iron here. So a bunch of you have asked me what am I playing for the upcoming Delve League, and we are just a couple hours away, so hopefully you've got all of your snacks and all of your work done for the day. I've still got a couple of phone calls here to make, but I'm wrapping those up, and I'm excited to show off the 3 builds that I'm most likely going to be trying out. Of course, I'm going to be playing in hardcore in Delve, so I try to play every other league, either softcore, hardcore, and it's been a couple of leagues since I've done hardcore because Mrs. D and I just, we had our newest baby in January, so I've taken a little bit of a break from hardcore, and I'm excited this league to be diving back in and to be experiencing all of the rage inducing excitement of losing characters. So that's going to happen. Not if, but when. So the first character that's going to die in hardcore is going to be this Infernal Blow chieftain. So this is pretty much the same build. I'm giving credit here to Demigod and to Pohx Kapp. So Pohx ran this in 3.2. He's got a video up showing it off of what this build looks like in 3.2, and then Demi has updated his build guide as well a couple of different times. I believe he's hosting that either on his Twitch site or on his YouTube site. Both Pohx and Demi both have got their own Twitch and YouTube channels. So if you're looking for the origin of the build, that's where it's at. One of the differences between Demi and Pohx's version of the build is that Pohx goes with two-handed weapons, and so as such down here near the duelist tree, he comes over here, grabs the destroyer, and grabs a bunch of the two-handed damage, as opposed to coming over here and grabbing dervish. So depending on what we find, I am either going to go with the two-handed version or dual wielding version. So it depends on what we find and what's available on day 1 and day 2 for what's actually available early on. One of the things that's cool about this, one of the reasons why I wanted to play it, is because I don't have a high-level chieftain on standard, so my goal as I'm playing through PoE is to have at least one high-level character of each ascendancy sitting in standard, so that way I can test different stuff out and have fun with it. So I don't have a chieftain over there yet, so I know I'm going to play this. And then Infernal Blow just looks like a fun skill, doing a bunch of fire damage, and I know that because I'm playing hardcore, I wanted to go Marauder and Chieftain, obviously, and Chieftain looks relatively tanky as a starter, and this looks like a relatively cheap build as a starter as well. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be starting out this way. So for those of you that have never played a Chieftain before, here are some of the ascendancy points that I'm going to pick up. Nagahamu Flames Advance. It gives me a bunch of physical damage converted to fire, and then also gives me some fire pen. And then you come up here to Hinakura Death's Fury. It gives you 1% of fire damage leached as life, 10% increased strength, and then 1% of damage dealt by your totems is leached to you as life. And then you get a 10% chance to cover rare or unique enemies in ash for 10 seconds on hit, and being covered in ash applies a 20% less movement speed and 20% increased fire damage taken. And remember, whenever it's a increased damage taken, similarly to Intimidate, it essentially is a more multiplier. So that's a great passive. Then you got Tahua Forest Fury. That gives you 0.5% of your maximum life regenerated per second per endurance charge. And then when you or your totems kill a burning enemy, 20% chance for you and your totems to each gain an endurance charge. And then 6% increased fire damage per endurance charge, which is great. And then Ramako Sun's Light, 100% to fire resistance, 1% of life regenerated per second, 10% of physical damage taken from hits as fire damage, 2% of life regenerated per second if you've taken fire damage from a hit recently, which we will have taken because we're always going to be taking hits and turning those hits into fire damage. So it's pretty exciting to see the types of mitigation that are available here for hardcore, as well as the total amount of life, which is 184% on the tree. So that's going to be my league starter. We're going to start with this. It can go Infernal Blow as well as with an Ancestral Bourgee for a Flame Totem, etc. You can just throw in whatever totem you want in there. So that's the first one that we're going to do. And then depending on what really what drops for us, how things go within the first couple of days, we're either going to jump over to this build number 3 or this build number 1. I'm going to show off this build first because number 3 is going to be, I already know it's going to be my favorite, so I'm saving it for last, at least to show off. So I don't have a hierophant sitting over in standard. So of course that gives us exactly what we're going to be doing, which is hierophant. And this is going to be a totem guy, and you can see he does a a bunch of damage. He's going to be an Arc Totem hierophant, which that's credit to Bourgee and his build guide that's up on the forums that I've taken this from. It's a really fun build. It looks great. If you don't like playing totems, I often don't get to play totems because a lot of the guys that I play with in G3 over the years play totem builds. So I'm actually excited to try out a totem build in hardcore and see how it goes. This guy, one of the defensive highlights is he does go mind over mana, and then he stacks a bunch of mana. So we'll see exactly how effective that is in hardcore. And then we're going to try out the new hierophant. Like I said, I don't have a hierophant sitting over in standard. We're going to grab Divine Guidance, which gives you 150 to maximum mana, which is a lot. And then 10% of damage is taken from mana before life. That's a lot. It's like another massive chunk of mind over mana bonus. Then Pursuit of Faith, 100% increased totem duration. Can have up to 1 additional totem summoned at a time. 6% increased damage per enemy killed by you or your totems recently. 10% increased attack speed and cast speed while you have a totem. Then Ritual of Awakening, which gives you can have up to 1 additional totem summoned at a time, and 50% increased totem placement speed. You regenerate 0.5% of mana per second per totem. You and your totems regenerate 1% of life per second per totem. Then Conviction of Power, which gives us a 25% chance to gain an endurance charge when you gain a power charge, 50% chance to gain a power charge when you place a totem, 15% chance to gain a power charge if you or your totems kill an enemy, 5% reduced elemental damage taken while you have an endurance charge, and damage penetrates 5% elemental resistances while you have a power charge. So that's going to be a bunch of damage that's coming off of that. So this looks like a fun build. I think this is going to be kind of my mid-game or mid-league build where I'm going to be able to dump some more currency in. I don't think I'm going to dump very much currency into the chieftain. We'll just get that build going, get some currency generated, and then we'll swap over to this guy to really try and push a little bit harder, hopefully into the darkness of the delves and generate some more currency and some fun items. Then my last build that I do want to try out is this. It's Toaster's support build. It's his hardcore viable occultist with 7 auras and 4 curses. This is going to be an expensive build. This is the most expensive build that I want to play this league. I do have an occultist sitting over in standard, but right now I don't have an elementalist. So I'll probably either really enjoy this playstyle and keep it over in standard and swap over my other occultist in standard into an elementalist, because then I would have a necro, an elementalist, and an occultist. Anyway, so I need to complete a 3rd witch, is basically what I'm saying, and then one of those witches in standard is going to get converted over to elementalist at the end of the league. So one of the cool things about this is when you come all the way up here to the top left, you get Whispers of Doom, which is enemies can have 1 additional curse. You do see this is not a CI build, but there is a lot of chaos resistance over here. You can see over here in the top right, Hexmaster. You get increased curse duration, increased area of effective curse skills, and increased effect of your curses, which means that every curse that you're casting just amplifies what the effect of that curse is doing. Down here we've got Charisma, so we've got a bunch of mana, a bunch of mana reduction of reservation. Over here we've got Leadership, again, increased effectiveness of auras, and then we're just going to run a bunch of auras. So if you look over here under skills, you can see we're running Purity of Ice, Purity of Lightning, Purity of Fire, Assassin's Mark, Haste, Hatred, and then we're running Temporal Chains, Enfeeble, along with Wrath, and then Vol Haste, Discipline, along with Summonstone Golem, and then Conductivity, along with Flame Dash. So you can see there's a lot of different curse setups that you can do with this, a lot of different options, but that's just a ton of curses to be able to run and support with. So I love playing supports. I enjoy it. I like playing alongside other people in Path of Exile. And again, in hardcore, being able to reduce damage and provide defensive support for your DPS is a huge boost to your team and to your party as you are going through maps or as you are deep delving. So this would be kind of like my end game or end league build where I'm just going to dump a bunch of currency into this build. The items that are needed, you will see there's just a bunch of uniques in here. Bright Beak's not going to matter as much because of the shield charge changes now, where shield charge doesn't pick up off of your weapon attack speed. So that's going to matter, or not matter. So we'll probably change that out for something. Prism Guardian is going to be your shield, which gives you Socketed Gems have blood magic, and then Socketed Gems have 25% reduced mana reservation. That's where you get some of your auras from. And then Broken Crown Socketed gems are supported by level 20 cast on death. Woohoo, I'm never going to die. But then you also get a bunch of all attributes, as well as a bunch of energy shield, as well as just a bunch of flat chaos resistance, which is great. Victorio's Influence is your chest piece. It gives you +1 to level of socketed aura gems. This is where your auras go. Socketed gems are supported by level 30 generosity. Socketed gems have 30% reduced mana reservation. Then it gives you a bunch of evasion and energy shield, increased effective aura skills, etc. And then increased effective non-curse auras you cast, which is great. It's like the perfect support chest. Boots, Syntrek, this just gives you a bunch of move speed. And then in Presence, which is a really, really expensive item a lot of the time, it gives us the ability to have 1% of energy shield regenerated per second. It gives us a bunch of flat attributes. And then you also have 100% reduced conductivity mana reservation, which just means, hey, you get to have conductivity up. Then for his ring, he's using Diodre's Damning, which is pretty fun. It gives you +5 to all elemental resistances, and then enemies can have 1 additional curse. Again, this is not a cheap build, so this is not my starter. This is not what we're this is not what I'm playing on day 1 today, but this is where I'm going to dump probably most of my currency into this Occultist, which hopefully won't die. But this is also why I'll play it later on down the league as I'm playing with other people, and other people want to pick up and start playing, because then I'll just be able to level it, and I'll have more gear and more currency to dump into leveling stuff, which should make it pretty easy to do. So speaking of which, if you'd like to jump in and you'd like to play at any point, we have a new Patreon tier that's going up on the Patreon list, so you can continue to support the channel and support all of the wonderful daily content that we're going to make here for Delve. Every single day it's going to be my goal to come out with at least 1 video, if not 2. We're going to talk about the economy this league. We're going to talk about the Delve mechanics this league. We're going to talk about new players, and if you're new to the game this league, all of the different mechanics that you're going to see and how those mechanics have been introduced through previous leagues. And then of course we're going to do build updates and build walkthroughs that you would like us to do. Of course, if you're a Patreon supporter and you support at certain levels, there are different levels that you can support at on the G3 channel, but if you're a Patreon supporter, always happy to take suggestions for your videos, and if you ever want a build guide done, then you can just submit that through Patreon. You can send us a PM on the Discord, or send me privately a message through the Discord just to say, hey, I'd like a video made of this particular build guide. What can I do to improve it? Always happy to do that for our Patreon supporters and for everybody that's in the G3 Guild. If you are looking to play softcore or hardcore, feel free just to jump on the G3 Discord. We've got a bunch of people that are going to be playing softcore, and then I, of course, am going to be playing hardcore with a couple of other really insane people as well. So no matter where it is that you're going to be playing Delve, there's going to be plenty of friends for you to jump in and leech off of to help out. So anyway, get the countdown started. Get a last cat nap as you can, and make sure that you got lots of food stocked up for the weekend, because Delve is here.